In 1925, a man sold the Eiffel Tower. Not a replica, not a postcard, all 7,000 tons of it. The kicker? He didn't own it. He didn't work for the government. He was just a guy with a fake ID and a lot of audacity. His name was Victor Lustig, and he realized something about humans that most people miss. We don't trust honest men. We trust corrupt ones. Paris in 1925 was a city of contradictions. The Roaring Twenties were in full swing, but the French government was drowning in debt from the Great War. The city's biggest icon, the Eiffel Tower, was essentially a massive pile of neglected iron. It was originally built for the 1889 World's Fair and was only supposed to stand for 20 years. By the mid-20s, the paint was peeling, the rivets were rusting, and the public was screaming for it to be torn down. It was an expensive eyesore. Victor Lustig, a professional con artist with 47 aliases and 5 languages under his belt, saw a newspaper article complaining about the tower's maintenance costs. While most people saw a national tragedy, Lustig saw a liquidation sale. You see, in finance, there is a concept called the distressed asset. This is when something valuable is being sold at a discount because the owner is desperate to get rid of the headache. Lustig knew that if he could frame the Eiffel Tower as a government headache, he could find a buyer willing to pay millions to solve it. Lustig didn't just wake up and decide to sell a landmark. He was a veteran of the long con. Before arriving in Paris, his playground was the high society cruise liners crossing the Atlantic. He called himself Count Victor Lustig. He dressed in the finest tailored suits, spoke with a refined, untraceable accent, and possessed a scar on his left cheek that he claimed was the result of a duel over a noblewoman's honor. In reality, it was a bar fight in Prague, but in the world of the con, the story is more valuable than the truth. On these ships, he perfected the Romanian box, or as he called it, the money duplicator. It was a beautiful mahogany box with brass dials and levers. Lustig would show a wealthy traveler how he could put a $100 bill in one slot, turn a crank, and 6 hours later, 2 identical, crisp $100 bills would emerge from the other side. The trick was simple. Lustig had already hidden a few genuine bills inside the machine. He would tell the mark that the chemical process took exactly 6 hours. During those 6 hours, he would wine and dine the victim, building trust. By the time the second bill emerged, the victim was desperate to buy the box. Lustig would reluctantly sell it for $30,000, roughly $500,000 today. By the time the victim realized the box only spit out blank paper after the first 2 bills, Lustig was already on a different continent. This was the man who stepped off the train in Paris in 1925. He wasn't a thief. He was an alchemist of trust. Lustig checked into the Hôtel de Crillon, the most expensive hotel in Paris, located right across from the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. He didn't start in the streets. He started with paperwork. He hired a high-end forger to create government stationery and credentials. He appointed himself the Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. Then he sent out a formal, top-secret invitation to the 5 biggest scrap metal dealers in France. When the dealers arrived at the hotel, they didn't see a scammer. They saw a tired, overworked bureaucrat in a smoky, candlelit suite. Lustig didn't pitch them. He interviewed them. He took them to the tower in a chauffeured limo. He flashed his fake badge to the guards. He led the dealers to the very top, pointing out the rust and the structural decay. The government, Lustig told them with a sigh, is embarrassed. We cannot afford the repairs. The tower is being demolished. But to avoid a public outcry from the traditionalists, we are selling the salvage rights in total secrecy. The man who wins this bid will go down in history as the man who cleared the Parisian skyline. He was using information asymmetry. He made them feel like they were the only ones in the world who knew a secret. And in the world of high finance, a secret is more valuable than gold. Among the 5 dealers, Lustig was looking for a very specific psychological profile. He didn't want the smartest man, he wanted the hungriest. He found him in André Poisson. Poisson was, quote, new money. He had built a successful scrap business, but he was an outsider in the Parisian elite. He was insecure. He wanted a seat at the table with the old aristocrats. He wanted a legacy. Lustig saw this from a mile away. He began to court Poisson. He ignored the other dealers and focused solely on him. He took Poisson to lunch at the most exclusive clubs. He talked about the burden of power and the loneliness of high office. But Poisson had a wife, and Madame Poisson was suspicious. She asked the right questions. Why is this secret? Why isn't the minister himself here? Why are we meeting in a hotel instead of a government building? The deal was on the verge of collapsing. Poisson was getting cold feet. Lustig realized that Poisson's suspicion came from a place of logic. If someone offers you a deal that is too good to be true, you look for the catch. If Lustig continued to act like a perfect, noble official, he would lose the deal. So, he decided to give Poisson exactly what he expected from a government bureaucrat: corruption. During their final meeting, Lustig's demeanor changed. He became fidgety. He complained about his low salary. He mentioned how expensive it was to maintain a count's lifestyle on a deputy director's pay. He hinted that the final decision on the contract was entirely in his hands, but that he had many personal expenses to cover. Lustig was asking for a bribe. And in that moment, Poisson's heart rate slowed. His suspicion evaporated. In his mind, an honest government official selling a monument was a red flag. But a corrupt government official looking for a kickback? That made perfect sense. That was how the world worked. By acting dirty, Lustig proved he was real. Poisson didn't just write a check for the 7,000 tons of iron. He handed over a massive stack of cash as a personal bribe, roughly $1.2 million in today's currency, and a check for the full purchase price of the tower. Lustig took the money, walked Poisson to the door with a firm handshake, and within 1 hour, he was on a train bound for Vienna with a suitcase full of francs. Lustig sat in a luxury hotel in Vienna, waiting for the news to break. He expected the headlines to scream, "National icon stolen!" He expected Interpol to be at his door by Tuesday. But Wednesday came, then Thursday, then a month passed. Silence. The French newspapers mentioned the weather, they mentioned the jazz clubs, they never mentioned the sale of the Eiffel Tower. Lustig realized he had stumbled upon the ultimate psychological shield: shame. André Poisson was so humiliated, so utterly destroyed by the realization that he had been tricked into buying a 1,000-foot-tall pile of nothing, that he never reported the crime. To go to the police would be to admit to the entire world that he was a fool and a corrupt businessman. His reputation would be ruined. Poisson chose to eat the loss. He stayed silent. Lustig looked at his suitcase of money and realized something. If there is no victim report, there is no crime. And if there is no crime, why not do it again? In 1926, 6 months after his escape, Victor Lustig went back to Paris. He didn't change his name, he didn't change his style. He checked back into a luxury hotel, this time the Hotel Meurice. He used the same fake letterhead. He invited 5 new scrap dealers. He told the exact same story about the rusting liability and the secret demolition. He even took them to the tower for the same limo tour. He was halfway through the bribe negotiation with a new mark when the unthinkable happened. This dealer wasn't André Poisson. He didn't care about his reputation, he cared about his money. He went straight to the police. Lustig's infinite money glitch had hit a patch. He narrowly escaped through a back service door as the Parisian police raided his suite. He boarded a ship for the United States, leaving the Eiffel Tower behind forever. But the count wasn't done. America was the land of the Great Gatsby, and Lustig was about to meet the most dangerous man in the world. Lustig arrived in Chicago during the height of Prohibition. The city was run by Al Capone. Most people avoid Al Capone. Lustig decided to invest with him. He walked into Capone's office and pitched him a financial opportunity. Lustig asked for $50,000 in cash, promising to double it in 60 days through a secret European stock play. Capone, intrigued by the audacity of this count, handed over the money. But he gave Lustig a warning. If you're lying, you're dead. I'll find you anywhere in the world. Lustig took the $50,000 and did something incredible. Nothing. He put the money in a safe deposit box and let it sit for 2 months. He didn't spend a dime. After 60 days, he walked back into Capone's office looking devastated. He looked like a man who had lost everything. He told Capone, "The deal fell through. The market collapsed. I have failed you." Capone reached for his gun. Then Lustig pulled out the $50,000, every single dollar, and handed it back. "I couldn't make you the profit I promised," Lustig whispered, "so I have returned your principal. My honor as a count demands it." Capone was stunned. In his world, everyone was a thief. No one ever gave money back. He was so impressed by Lustig's honesty that he gave Lustig a $5,000 reward for being a straight shooter. Lustig walked out with $5,000 of Capone's money, which was his plan all along. He knew he couldn't scam Capone out of $50,000 and live, but he could earn $5,000 by proving he wasn't a scammer. He had successfully conned the most dangerous man in America by using the one weapon Capone didn't know how to fight: integrity. Lustig eventually moved from the long con to volume. He partnered with a chemist named Tom Shaw to create the largest counterfeiting ring in American history. They weren't just printing bills, they were printing masterpieces. Their Lustig money was so perfect that it started to threaten the stability of the US dollar. The Secret Service created a special task force just to find the Count. Lustig was finally caught in 1935, not because of a brilliant detective, but because of a scorned woman. His mistress, Billy Scheibel, found out he was having an affair and mailed a key to a subway locker to the police. Inside that locker was the evidence that ended his career: $51,000 in counterfeit bills and the plates used to print them. Lustig was sentenced to 20 years in Alcatraz. Even in prison, the Count remained a legend. He was the only man to ever escape the Federal House of Detention in New York by tying bed sheets together and pretending to be a window washer while the guards watched him from below. He was caught 27 days later, but the legend was sealed. Victor Lustig died in 1947 of pneumonia. On his death certificate, the clerk asked what his occupation was. Lustig, even at the end, replied with a smile: salesman. He left behind a list known as the 10 Commandments for con men. But if you look closely, they aren't just for criminals. They're the fundamental laws of human interaction and sales. Be a patient listener. It's not fast talking that gets the deal. It's listening for the mark's weakness. Never look bored. Wait for the other person to reveal their political opinions, then agree with them. Let the other person reveal their religious views, then have the same ones. Never discuss illness. Never pry into a person's personal circumstances. They will tell you everything eventually. Never boast. Let your importance be quietly obvious. Never be untidy. Never get drunk. Hint at sex, but don't follow up unless they show interest. Lustig's life wasn't about the Eiffel Tower. It was about the fact that value is a story. The Eiffel Tower had no value as scrap metal in 1925 because it wasn't for sale. But Lustig created a story where it was for sale, and suddenly that iron was worth millions. In the modern financial world, we see Lustig moments every day. We see them in the crypto scams, the insider stock tips, and the too good to be true real estate flips. We think we are smarter than André Poisson. We think we would never buy a monument from a man in a hotel room. But Victor Lustig knew the truth. Everyone has a price. Everyone wants to be part of a secret. And everyone is looking for a reason to trust a corrupt man if it means they can get ahead. The Eiffel Tower still stands in Paris today, a 7,000-ton monument to the man who sold it, and a warning to everyone who thinks they're the smartest person in the room. Because as Lustig used to say, you cannot con an honest man. The problem is, he never met one.